We're going to have some fun with these two guys. KNUS has been a wonderful partner of the Centennial Institute at Colorado Christian University for years. We're so grateful for the bold, conservative voice they provide here on the Salem station here in Denver, Colorado. Please welcome Randy Corporon and Jimmy Sengenberger. Randy, thanks so much for coming out. Jimmy, grab a seat, please.
Age before beauty.
You wish.
So KNUS has been critical in fighting some serious issues in this state. One was the injection needle drugs that were trying to be established in Denver, where people can get, high and basically under the government's watch. Another one had to do with policing this year. Can you talk about what KNUS did to try to lead the effort to stop I believe it was an effort to allow people out of prison easier and stuff like that. Can you talk a bit about that?
Well, actually, I probably can't. I wasn't involved a whole lot in that particular effort. Right now, I'm so excited because KNUS is talking quite a bit about Jack Phillips.
Yeah.
And one of the most significant prayer moments I ever had was Centennial Institute after his Supreme Court victory. We were all together putting hands on with him and just celebrating what was kind of a small victory, but it was a huge victory in light of everything that he'd been through. And the thing I love about 710 KNUS is if there is a calling and an opportunity, they try and find a way to fill that void.
They do. And they're a local station, which I appreciate, right? Because you can listen to the national conservative talk show guys, but if you want to get into Colorado news, really, KNUS is one of the best ones out there, right?
We like to delve into depth on issues that matter to people's everyday lives. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And so I've done some of the coverage in terms of the so-called criminal justice reform bills and that sort of thing. I'm deeply concerned about how there's legislation that is, you go back to SB 270 last year, which was tying the hands of police officers by getting rid of qualified immunity and putting them on the hook for $25,000, the first $25,000 of any lawsuit against individual officers. Like, that is something that prevents them from doing their job and feeling confident that they can move forward and have the backing of the police departments. And it really is just such a travesty that we're seeing the defund the police movement go on, and then meanwhile we see legislation that is actually accomplishing some of these sorts of ends.
Jimmy, you are leading the effort on a school board member here in Denver that has some serious issues. You want to discuss a little bit about that?
Yeah, Tay Anderson is Denver Public Schools board member at large, and he is probably the most preeminent Black Lives Matter leader and activist in Colorado, certainly the most recognizable, and he's had a number of allegations leveled against him over the past few months, including serious allegations of sexual assault on students. And these are allegations, to be clear, but one of the things that we're seeing all across the country, Jeff, is school boards not listening to parents, not listening to students, and that's exactly what's happening here with Tay Anderson and the Denver Public Schools Board, because they have been, I view them as feckless in not actually, say, pushing him to resign, being A-okay with him voting for the next superintendent, while students have been leading protests and putting together petitions, for example, for new diplomas without Tay Anderson's name on them, and they just haven't been listening, and that's a deep tragedy.
Wow.
And Jeff, Jimmy's great work on reporting on this is phenomenal, but it's been another great opportunity for 710 as well, because that young student, Gigi Gordon, has been on our station. I don't know if she's been on other radio stations or not, but someone who's been indoctrinated in that school system for so long and so naturally comes out with much of those left-leaning views is seeing that it's people who are on our side of the political spectrum that are actually listening and want to support her position and hear what she has to say. And the petition that Jimmy mentioned is a change.org petition to have new diplomas issued with Tay Anderson, racist Tay Anderson's name off of them. Huh. And it had like 3,000 or so when she started coming on our radio station. It's getting close to 15,000 signatures in support of this young high school graduate from DPS. So if you're into signing petitions, I've always gotten a kick out of change.org because it's usually radical leftist petitions that are up there. But this is an opportunity to support somebody who's trying to have a voice and to show them that conservatives and Christians and just Americans are interested in what they have to say.
And just to piggyback off of that, because I've interviewed Gigi Gordon for upwards of 6 hours now on the radio on 3 different occasions. One of the most articulate, if not the most articulate 18-year-old I have ever met, and she is definitely bearing the brunt of a lot of attacks coming from the left. Hashim Coates, for example, who worked for Tay Anderson's campaign. He worked for Phil Weiser's campaign for Attorney General, worked for Morgan Carroll and Andrew Romanoff's congressional campaigns. Actually, he's going to be on a panel on June 28th on LGBTQ equality and gender equity. And online, he's saying things like comparing Gigi Gordon to the Columbine killers, who's standing up for respect for students and for the board to listen to these students and these graduates and to take this seriously. And it is abominable what's going on in terms of the district and the union. They gave $65,000 to Tay Anderson's campaign in 2019. They endorsed him and contributed to him after getting a letter. It was an anonymous letter, but suggesting allegations of sexual assault at that point in time. And yet they still contributed to him, endorsed him. And not only that, $38,750 was given to Anderson 2 weeks before the election by the union. And it is, I don't even know how you...
What's interesting about these allegations, I have a law firm and we do criminal defense as part of our work. I'm a firm believer in innocent till proven guilty. And that applies even to someone who I despise as much as I despise the behavior of Tay Anderson. But these allegations aren't coming from some right-wing groups or some political opponents or anything else. It was Black Lives Matter 5280 that brought out some of the first allegations. And the woman who brought to light these allegations about 62 child victims, allegations as serious as rape, victims as young as 14, was someone who's a radical leftist, someone who's known as Protest Mama, I think, on Twitter. So for me, I know we're all feeling stress from the political climate that we're in. I feel like we're in the midst of a great awakening. Absolutely.
Yes.
This had to happen to bring people out of their homes, out of their COVID deliriums, and start talking and realizing that we're not alone, that we still have a country to save, and that we're more than capable of doing so. And I'm just very excited about where all this leads.
Randy, you're in a unique position. Oftentimes, if you're a conservative that gets in trouble with the government, it's kind of like Better Call Saul. You better call Randy.
Yeah.
You've served John Bandemere and the challenges that he's facing out there. Go through some of the clients that you're representing that face challenges under the government.
Sure.
Shutdowns.
Yeah, we've got restaurant clients in Durango who are seeing this through to the end. I told people last year when people were saying, we've got to push back, we've got to stay open, we've got to suffer the consequences, that nothing that was going to happen in the court system, especially in Colorado with really an omnipotent governor once those emergency powers are taken by a governor, that the litigation was not going to solve the problem short term, that we had to be in it for the long term. Yeah. We can't solve what's happened over the last year or whatever. The point of seeing Bandemere or CJ's Diner or whatever through to the end is so that they can never do this to us again.
That's right. How are those cases going? What's the update on this?
Well, they're stuck. Bandemere Speedway, I'm really disappointed, and lawyers don't. We had a great judge for the court hearing that we did for Bandemere, but the case is stuck in this position where the state and the county have filed motions to dismiss our complaint against the state and the county and the governor. And it's all been written out, all the briefing is in, and our judge in Jefferson County has been sitting on that motion for about 160 days now. Wow. And so we're just kind of in limbo. In the meantime, Bandemere's wide open. They're running their drag strip, big races tonight out there. So it's less of a concern since they're not inhibited in doing their business while we wait this through. The other big one that you'll be hearing about is Professor John Eastman, who was Donald Trump's lawyer. He was the visiting scholar for conservative studies at the University of Colorado. And he was the one in the Oval Office on January 5th talking to Vice President Pence about his ability and probably his duty to listen to all the different states that were saying, hey, we're not sure about the certification of our elections. We're seeing things that we don't trust. And they were asking the vice president to delay, not to change the outcome, not to change the votes, but to delay the outcome by just 7 days or 10 days so these battleground states could reassess whether they should have certified their ballots. And we all saw the idiocy that went on at the Capitol, and it blew it all up, so it didn't happen. But I think that if the vice president would have delayed just that 7 or 10 days, we might be in a different posture election-wise. But John Eastman was basically canceled by the University of Colorado. They kept paying him, but they did not allow him to use his voice on behalf of the school, talk to his students, teach his classes. And so we're suing the University of Colorado for a violation of his constitutional rights to speak, and they're punishing him, retaliating against him for his political views. And what a lost opportunity for the University of Colorado, because they could have been the center of perhaps one of the most important discussions of our century so far about the U.S. election in 2020. And instead of engaging and letting their students observe these brilliant minds arguing back and forth, they simply had to silence him. They had to pick up the narrative of the left. And so those take a long time. They don't change anything overnight, but those fights fought through to the end can change the direction of a country.
That's great. That's great. I think you all see KNUS is right in the midst of a lot of these local issues. These guys are two commentators, radio hosts on KNUS. You got Stephen Tubbs, you got Peter Boyles, you got a great lineup, but we're so grateful for the conservative eye and conservative leadership that you provide. Can we give these guys a round of applause?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, as you know, we've had some guest players with the band. Isn't that right, Biff?
That's right. Jay Sekulow came in and rocked some drums with us a couple years ago.
Robert George on the banjo.
That's right.
I heard we have a mean harmonica player sitting here.
I don't know.
I got a case of 7
Jimmy
right here, you know. I just need to know what key to play, and I think we've already got that.
I think so. We're gonna be playing in E.
Yeah. Well, that means I need to play on my A harmonica to do a little bit of the key of E.
All right, Jimmy, show us what you got.
Try it.
Along here. See how
What
this
key
picks
should
up.
we hum in?
Yeah, right. You know this one.
Give me one reason to stay here, and I'll turn it back around. Give me one reason to stay here, and I'll turn it back around. 'Cause Jimmy don't wanna leave you lonely. You gotta make him change his mind. Come on, Jimmy, give me some. I don't wanna leave you lonely. You gotta make me change my mind.
Woo! There we go.
All right. That was great. Awesome.
That
Thank
is
you,
great.
Jimmy's awesome.
Thank you, Jeff.
Jimmy, Randy,
That was
thanks so
fun.
much for everything. Thanks for everything you do at KNUS. Keep up the good work.
Not
We
bad for a
appreciate it.
youngster, huh?
Yeah, right.
Thanks, everybody.
That's great.
God bless America, right?